about 5 o'clock in the morning, both sides opened up with an artillery barrage at one another, pounding each other with artillery. And then about 15-20 minutes later, the Union Army came out through those trees out the back there. And they had to walk about a third of a mile across open ground. They couldn't shoot back because there's nothing to shoot at because they're over there.
The distance,
and they were pounded by all these Confederate cannons, which are hard shot and canister and all sorts of stuff in there. Shoot because they're in the corn. And once they emerged through the corn, before they had time to really work out what was going on, the Confederates stood up with their muskets and delivered. They heard the battle raging over the South Mountain here on the Sunday before the battle started here Wednesday. They thought it was thunder until someone said it wasn't, and so they left and went away. They didn't come. They never came back.
They never came back.
The church state was badly damaged in the battle, and then in 1926 it just collapsed.
Oh wow. So this is a new one?
Sort of, in as much as it collapsed, and the farmer collected all what he could, like the window sills and the doors and everything he could collect, he stored. And then back in 1961 they rebuilt the church, and he was able to get back the window sills and the doors and the benches and the pews and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a new building, but it's got a lot of the original stuff
inside.
In fact, if you look at the window sill to the left of the front door, you'll see the graffiti carved into the stone by Union soldiers. You see, they had hooligans back in 1862.
Wow.
Vandalism isn't something new.
Wow, okay.
And on that day there were 23,000 casualties.
The whole battle?
The whole battle in 12 hours, 23,000 killed, missing or wounded, which is the biggest loss of life in American
battle
history.
History.
Even D-Day, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, add them all together, and you're getting somewhere near what happened here in 12 hours.
Only 12 hours?
12 hours.
So the battle here was just, how many, did it take days?
1 day, 12 hours. It started at 5 o'clock in the morning on the 17th, and it finished about 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the 17th. That was it.
The whole battle was in 12 hours?
This battle here.
This battle here was 12 hours.
Yeah, the Civil War went on for 5 years. But this
but this battle here was for only 12 hours.
Yeah.
And they lost 2,300 people.
23,000.
23,000
people. Yeah.
So what do you think might cause that? Is it because they were not having good guns, or what would you think a lot of life would have lost that way?
It was just a lot of people determined to have their way. I mean, they just as with the normal then, you lined all you march them forward in the hope that you can overwhelm the enemy before they can kill all yours. So they just walked forward, and
they went. So based off of the video,
this picture here, this is 2 days after the battle. Where you're standing is where Alexander Gardner, he's the one who took the picture. He was stood about here, and that's the picture he took 2 days after the battle. You can see there's the church all badly bashed, and this is a cannon, a caisson, and the soldiers that would have manned it.
Wow. Wow, that's, I thought it was like, a lot of days or months, but no. Here was just 12 hours.
1 day, 12 hours. I mean, Gettysburg went on for 3 days, and Shiloh and Vicksburg, they went on for days and days. But here it was one battle.
So, the war started from this particular area.
The battle started at a place called Fort Sumter in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
When the Confederate Army fired on Fort Sumter, which is an island in the middle of just off the coast of North Carolina. And the war started, and then there was the battles of Manassas, Fredericksburg, Gettysburg, and lots of battles. But this one is particularly important because they needed a win. Lincoln had written the Emancipation Proclamation in the March of that year, and as you probably know, that was one that banned slavery. Emancipation. He wanted to issue it in March, but his people told him that if you do that, it'll look like the last gasp of a failed army. So he had to wait until his army, Lincoln's, the Union Army of the North, had a win, and this was classed as a win. So once he did that, 3 days later, he issued this Emancipation Proclamation, which then said that slavery is banned, and any slaves anywhere are now free. And of course, we ended up with 6 million former slaves who now have got nowhere to live, nothing to eat, and nowhere to go. So it really wasn't a good idea, because at least as slaves, they had somewhere to live, they had food, and it all wasn't being beaten to death by bad landowners. Most of them looked after their people because they need them to work. But by issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, England and France wanted to recognize the South. But once they issued the Emancipation Proclamation, England couldn't, because they banned slavery 50 years before. So they couldn't recognize the South, who were were a slaving nation, because if they did that, that would be hypocrisy, so they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it. So the main purpose of this war, what was the main purpose? What caused it?
It started off as states' rights. Some states wanted to keep their slaves. And Lincoln said, yeah, you can keep your slaves, but states which haven't got slaves, they can't have them. If you have got slaves, then you can keep them. But the thing is that 90% of the money that was made by the South, i.e. the cotton and stuff like that, all the money went to the North, because the people who owned all the properties in the South lived in the North. And so the people who lived in the South, they wanted to keep some of their money to live. They wanted to do what each state wanted to do. They didn't want a federal government telling them what to do. So it was states' rights. So that's what it's all about. Slavery was an issue in as much as the states wanted the right to choose whether they wanted slavery or not. Some of them did, some of them didn't. I think probably in the fullness of time it would have faded out anyway, human nature being what it is. But anyways, but once Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, it all became all about slavery. And by then he could then enlist black soldiers to join to do the fighting as well. I don't know if you've seen a movie called Glory.
No.
It's about the 34th Massachusetts, which was a regiment of black soldiers, led by a guy called Gordon, and they were the ones that first volunteered. Fort Wagner was almost an impregnable fort, and he said, my regiment will take the fort. And so they attacked Fort Wagner, a black regiment. They were badly beaten, but it went down in history as determined that if you're determined to do something, you can achieve it. So that's how it went on from there.
Wow.
So guys, these are some of the guns that were used in the battlefield, and based off of what has been written here, this gun can travel as far as 300 yards. So these were some of the guns that were used on the battlefield. Very historic moments, guys. This is an artillery. So this knife, what they use in treating wounds. And this probe you see here is what they use in removing bullets. The bullets that were shot to the soldiers, this probe was what they used to remove the bullets from them. You can see how painful this could be, as this is not a sharp tool. This is not a sharp tool, so you can see how difficult and how how hurtful this could be to be used to remove bullets. So this shovel you see here is a shovel they use to bury the dead. And the hook you see over here is a hook that they use to carry the dead bodies. This was so very sad moments, guys. Very sad moments, but great stories. The shovel was used to bury the dead, and the hook was used to carry the dead bodies. Very historic. So these are bullets.